Also, good afternoon. Hopefully lunch treated you well. We'll make sure that you don't fall asleep, at least on our behalf. If lunch does that for you, I'm sorry, I can't solve that. I'm Bill Willis. This is
Ann Wacholz.
Yep. We're going to talk a little bit about the transformation journey that Andersen Windows took on their identity process, specifically on their partner level for sales operations. And so, yeah, that's what that means. Like when one door closes, the other one opens. Basically, from a perspective of the approach from a data perspective, from a process perspective, and a technology perspective, that door was closed. And so with Ann's leadership, we opened the new door on how things are going to work. So let's see if we can go here. So I think we already spoke to that. So we're going to set this up kind of in a method of Ann's going to answer all the questions and I'm going to ask all the questions.
But we're going to kick off with just a little snippet of what I put together as our Andersen vision that we're working on with this effort that we're taking on with, we're calling it customer identity, but it's, as Bill had mentioned, it's our business partners, our dealers, our trade folks, and some affiliates in the Renewal organization. And really, we wanted to provide an intuitive, seamless experience for them. And because these are folks who do business with and for Andersen, and there are some great improvements that we could really make in the field of how they gain access to our systems. And so what's really important is to support them as a user and have a seamless experience, but also in addition to that, leverage modern technologies and identity best practices, which was really important. We have some dated practices going on currently, and we want to update those while achieving both customer experience and technology goals. And there's, you've heard some things this morning at the keynotes around data being a critical player as well. And so that's something we're uncovering during this process also. So altogether, this is our vision for where we want to go with the effort we're currently working on.
The journey partner that, when working with Andersen, we brought to the table basically three things. We hunt for debt, we hunt for friction, and we hunt for data quality. So every keystroke means that's better return on the investment that you're making because it's one less thing that somebody has to do. If the quality and the fidelity of the information is good, then that means the friction of the process can be automated. It doesn't have to be manual. And so that's technology independent. And we'll speak a little bit more about how ultimately Andersen picked a technology. So the very first question we're going to ask is the following. Why was it important for Andersen to make this investment in the first place, to be able to enable self-service for their customers and their partners and make sure that they had secured authentication to the ecosystem?
So there's many things that play into this. Number one is really removing barriers. So today we have many barriers. We have some legacy practices I alluded to, and some things that take more time than they really should, that create friction for the users. We also need to modernize our security practices. So again, we're using your regular user ID, which they can make up themselves, a password, and then some good old-fashioned security questions, which people always seem to forget when they need to reset their password. And so we really have some opportunity to modernize our security practices. And then really a byproduct of all this is improving our data quality. So we have to marry up identity data with customer data. And what we found is that's not as simple as it sounds. We have, in some cases, one customer data store for some of our audiences, and then what we're finding is with some other audiences we're going to be addressing, there isn't just one data store. And so we're trying to figure out how do we work with that, and then knowing that we're going to have one input on the identity side, how do we make sure we can marry that up to that customer data so that we have the appropriate data passing through the systems as needed as that user is able to authenticate and self-service their user account. So this is also going to allow us to adapt to the changing business needs more quickly. That's one thing that I will say is that with our marketing partners at Andersen, they want to move fast. They want to offer new programs. They want to put more applications and tools in the hands of these folks, but we really need to get this upfront authentication authorization set in order to allow for that. And so doing what we're going to be doing is really going to help us support our business partners. And that ultimately leads to the last one, which is total cost of ownership. We're going to be taking an enterprise approach to identity, and that is the first time we've done that. Right now, it's been very piecemeal. And so us being able to take that enterprise approach and improve our data quality is really going to allow us to have to reduce overall costs, reduce support, and have better consistency and standards in place to help us really change as the needs grow in the business.
Probably the one thing that Andersen's leadership has done that is different and in a good way unique is that they came and said, hey, we know we have to invest in this, but what is it going to do for the business? How can we quantify that TCO, the total cost of ownership, and the return on that? And we were able to sit down and actually look at the data, look at the process, come back and say, hey, right now certain processes take days, they're going to be shrunk to under minutes. And by being able to say times N number and putting a quantitative dollar figure to that, it showed like less than a 6-month return. And they're able to, like the marketing program can almost in real time change over to what they want to do. All big things. And then the leadership goes, okay, I can invest in that because the business can actually do something. It's not a security insurance policy for 3/4-inch hail that's going to knock my windows out again. I had to throw that in there. What the hell? All right, so yeah. So where are we right now with the initiative, and kind of where is the project as far as putting it in place?
All right. So right now, I will say we have not implemented yet, but we are working on a multi-phase program for this effort, and we are doing this mainly because, well, there's many reasons. One of them is because our current identity platform is reaching end of life, but also because we want to have that scalability and those best practices and consistency built across our organization. Right now, we have some silos of things happening in our customer identity space, and we really want to bring that all together. And so this multi-phased roadmap is going to help us take it on a chunk at a time that makes sense. And we started with a foundation phase that helped us really put some foundational platform pieces and data synchronization in place so that we can build out these multiple phases of the effort. So one of the things that we have realized that is going to be a really big selling point and benefit of this is really improving that data quality that I talked about between the identity and the customer data. It's really going to allow us to offer more self-service capabilities, and we will have a flexible user experience as well, because that's something we really had challenges with our legacy products in the past, was building an interface that was seamless to those users. And so we're really focusing a lot of energy around making sure whatever we build, it's frictionless, it's seamless to the users, and you don't need an instruction manual to be able to do it. So, and then that last bullet there really does speak to the fact that we are going to remove time lag in the process. This is a huge win for us. Today, if I am one of these users and registering a user account, and I go through the couple of steps on the registration process, it's going to be anywhere from 2 hours to a day or two until my user account is ready for use. That is really unacceptable. In our future process, it's going to be instantaneous, and that is going to be a huge win.
And I'll say we're in the 60-day window, so we're doing a lot of dress rehearsals. It's not like we're just sitting here waiting for that thing. So, all right. Okay. All right. So, how have we taken the vision of Andersen, and how have you enabled it with your leadership in getting everybody in place for what they want to do?
So this is really the fun part. This is the part that I've been spending about the last year and a half kind of getting ready to get to this point. And it really did start with a strong business case and really securing that leadership support. They are very excited about this, but it's not like they just said, yeah, sure, go ahead and do this. We had to help tell that value story. We had to help tell what that impact was, both from a customer satisfaction and from a total cost of ownership perspective. And then those next two bullets really went hand in hand. Our team had spent a lot of time trying to identify the identity platform that was going to fit our need. We even actually thought at one point maybe we should do this ourselves. And nope, that is not the best way to go about this. We heard that feedback very loudly. But after we selected our platform, we did find that we were going to need an implementation partner. And that was really important for us. I know there might be some companies that can do it on their own, but we're a little bit smaller in size from that perspective. We wanted some industry expertise on identity, and that's where we found IDM Works. It was great timing, and the perfect fit. I will say, when you're talking about finding a partner, it's really important to find the best fit for your culture, for your technology needs, for the identity expertise you're looking for, and that they understand what your use cases and requirements are. And that's really where we found IDM Works, and it was an excellent fit for where we wanted to go. And even more so than that, Bill here has been really critical in helping work with my leadership and help really support the story we were already telling, but with some industry expertise to back it up. And so his being able to tell that story and really share what they've done other places has helped really make our leadership feel confident that we're going down the right path. Yeah. And in the entire time, really, we had to make sure we were aligning to our customer experience and identity and security objectives. And so we were very clear up front, and that was super helpful, I know from my perspective, as I met with possible platform vendors and implementation partners, is to be clear on what our expectations were and what we were looking for. And you could tell pretty early on whether people understood what you were looking for or not, and whether they could fit your needs. And so that was really important. And then lastly, we had a lot of early communication, frequent communication. We've been trying to be as transparent as possible throughout the entire process because we knew as we were going to touch a lot of different teams in our organization, both business and technical teams, application teams. I wanted to warn them very early on. We're going to need your help. It's going to be around this time frame. I'll let you know as I learn more. And so my goal was that nobody would be surprised that my team was coming to them saying, hey, I need something from you, or I want to engage with you and collaborate with you on this piece of this effort. And so I will say that's one thing we've been spending a lot of time on.
I would say there's probably two things that, if anybody in here does take away, I would suggest the following. Number one, Ann and her team, we've made sure that we talk to the leadership of Andersen every month to 6 weeks on where are we in the journey and actually showing them progress. So instead of them going, well, I wonder how that project's going, I haven't heard anything in a while, they actually can see it, touch it, feel it, smell it. And so when they do that, they're like, wow, that's cool, right? They're like, just keep on keeping on. It's like the vice president of marketing, the CIO, the CISO. I mean, it's like the level of people that you need to come up when executive leadership wants to know, hey, we've really invested in here, how's it going? They're as enthusiastic as the rest of us instead of going, well, I'll get back to you, I don't know, I'm not sure what that is, right? The second thing that's happened, and I think everybody in the room probably suffers from this, is both the Auth N and the Auth Z. So from a difference between authentication where you've got fine-grained or coarse-grained attributes like, hey, I can log in and I can authenticate, but also the fine-grained attributes for Auth Z. This approach that we're taking will take every application's details of what they have in those applications and put them in a central place. So from a security perspective, you can literally see everything that I have all the way down to every attribute. No different than you do with Active Directory, but now you have it with every application too. So now you can say in one place, hey, show me everybody that has a credit limit of over $1 million to buy stuff. You can't do that today across the spectrum. So that when you look at anything in your place that says, hey, I've got hundreds of applications, how do I do that? There's some tips and techniques that we can show you how to do that, and it actually is very scalable. So, okay, that was that. Come on. Come on. There we go. So what are we making? And when
Something
are we get?
Really
and we are
good.
going to do this in a couple of months, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When are we going to deliver? All right.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Let's do it.
All right, so I start really lofty up there. We're going to create an identity platform with modern capabilities and the ability to enable industry best practice. Okay, that sounds a little bit like a tagline, but then I start to get into a little more detail. Really, we want to remove some of those pain points and create a seamless user experience. Like I said, my goals have been very clear. The top two things are really that seamless customer experience and the modern security and identity practices. And so we're going to, as a byproduct of that, we're going to end up having an enterprise solution that has the consistency, standards, and extensibility for future growth. And then lastly, at a more detailed level, we're going to finally be able to offer a self-service capability for these users so they can say, okay, I logged in. Now tell me what we know about what we know about them, what I have access to, what am I eligible to have access to. It's all going to be right there, and they can request additional access. Today, it's a little clunky. They have to make phone calls. They call our support desk. It's just not seamless. And so we're going to make it super simple so it's all right in their fingertips. And it goes without saying that they'll be able to do it on a mobile device or on their computer at work. There are options. It's all going to be very modern, leveraging modern best practices.
Yeah, the one thing that's innovative here is the App Store, right? Yeah. We all use an App Store on our mobile devices, right? But from an enterprise level, you never see an App Store that actually talks to your company's applications. So if you know that I'm a service tech and by default I get these 3 apps but I have access to these 6 others, to let them choose it instead of them having to go through the friction and the debt of, oh, I need to fill out a request form to get these other 2 things. They know what they need. They know what they want to be able to do the business and make money for them as one of your constituents. And so we find that this enterprise app store really is a game changer, because now all that friction and debt of being able to do that and having to call the help desk is gone. So if you talk to your leadership about how much does that cost you to do that kind of work, and remember this is a sales operation and a partner level operation. This is also the same approach for third party risk, say for your manufacturing and your procurement side. Right? Same exact approach. You know what that person's supposed to get by default, and here's all the other things that they can have. And then on top of that, having the Auth and the fine-grained attributes in a central location, that generational investment will serve them very well for a very long time. So how are we going to measure this bad boy? What's the success criteria?
Yeah, there's going to be many ways. And actually, there are a few other sessions where I've cut in tidbits that are helping me think a little bit more about here. But we did talk to some of our partners ahead of time just to get feedback about what was going well for them, what were they struggling with. Of course, you always get a little bit more and things outside of your scope when you ask those questions, but it's all really good information to have. So we're going to go back to them and talk through it with them and see what's working well for them with the things around what we're delivering with authentication and being able to self-service. That's going to be really important. But we're also going to be able to see a difference in our support call metrics. Today, we just get an extraordinary amount of password reset tickets, and it really shouldn't be that difficult. And so we're going to be able to know how we impact that with these new changes. We'll see a difference in those support call metrics, and we'll be able to see what kind of problems go away, or maybe what opportunities do we still have once we put our first set of changes in. But we're also going to talk to our key stakeholders, our business folks, because our business folks talk to these guys all the time. They're doing business with them. Our sales organization is working with them, and oftentimes they hear first before the support desk does when someone has an issue or problem, or maybe a lack of a problem. They're going to, they are the first ones that our customers often go to when they need assistance. So we'll really get some great feedback from all of those items on there. And then lastly, we'll have some usage metrics. We'll be able to see impacts of where are they going? Where does it seem like they're taking more time? Or where might we have some abandonment where they maybe struggled with something for whatever reason? So I think we'll be able to piece together all these bits of information to help us tell the story of how we're doing.
Yeah. So I guess we should talk a little bit about the tech stack since we didn't put it in there. So
yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we did it on purpose. So today it's Microsoft MIM. That's getting retired. Clearly didn't do the job. Microsoft B2C, same thing. So that's getting transitioned over to Ping 1. So that'll be the IDP, the identity provider, with federation into that in the transition, both from Microsoft as well as Ping 1. Ping Risk is also in there. So we'll be using that for some policy-based decision on, where are they coming from? They're in Cancun. It's 2 a.m. What the hell's that all about? Kind of thing, right? We'll see if the AI picks that up or not. And then the last thing is the App Store. We actually built that fit for purpose inside of Entra or Azure, depending on what you want to call it. But that application's there. And then we built in the process of building an SDK for all of the internal apps. And the idea here is that the security team owns the integration into the authentication piece. So it's not hundreds of times in the engineering team has to do it one-off. You have one piece of code that everybody can ingest. You fork your source code. You bring it in, that function. You build it, you test it, and now you've got one piece that's deployed 100 times instead of 100 approaches one time, right? And now you actually can get all the Auth0 components into Ping1 for those applications, and now the token gets passed over to the app for authentication and everything that that person needs instead of having to house that in the applications. Very powerful. I would highly suggest that you take a thought at that, because it's one of those things that from a security perspective and all the hacking that's done, you can actually create the protection that's in there, including putting the entry into the SIM during the authentication, because none of your internal applications will do any of that. Okay. All right, so this is the call to action key takeaways. Da-da-da.
And so as I've gone through the last year of this effort and kind of framing it up and getting to the point where we are today, that first bullet was a big one. And I know I talked to a few other folks that are kind of going through that journey right now, but building that strong business case and really the possible outcomes and why this is important and what how you'll benefit as a company, what the cost savings, the total cost of ownership is, will really help you get that leadership support. And you'll find that, I kind of actually thought, I know you guys this may not be popular. I didn't think an identity project would be very exciting, I have to admit. Now I feel differently.
So wrong about that.
I know, it's so wrong.
Shame on you.
I know, it really is exciting, because I don't think people understand how much easier we can make things for people. And if you leverage some of those modern practices, not only are you benefiting from, you're going to decrease the risk to your organization and its data, but you're going to actually make your customers happier. They're going to have that seamless experience. So it's really important to get them on board and make sure they're supporting you, but then really assess the products to determine the best fit. Again, maybe the same product isn't right for everyone, but know what you're looking for. You need to really take the time to frame it up. I had a couple vendors actually say that we had done one of the best jobs they had seen as a customer looking for a partner for that platform to frame up what we were looking for. We were very clear what we were looking for. I just needed to figure out which platform could do it and which partner could enable us. And so really that moved right into finding that knowledgeable partner, having early and frequent communication like I mentioned before, and then knowing who your decision makers are. I took a lot of time also to identify all my stakeholders. There are a lot of stakeholders for my project because we are impacting several areas of the organization. And let me tell you, they change frequently. So just when I thought I had my list set and I knew who my decision makers were, org changes happen. So make sure you stay on top of that, because again, early and frequent communication, being transparent, relies on knowing who you need to communicate to and knowing who's going to help you make those tough decisions. So those were the things that I learned out of this effort.
So I'll give you two other things here from my chair. And it hasn't talked about how she actually enabled the Salesforce team. The Salesforce team had a data quality initiative that was going to take about 6 months, and you can figure 4 people times 6 months times whatever you pay for them to clean up the data. The fact that when a person is enrolling into this now, they're required to validate their email and their password with a confirmation email and a confirmation, and they have to give the code back, actually self-heals the Salesforce data from that. So if you said, okay, everybody gets 150 grand fully burdened times 6 months, so it's $300,000. That's 300 grand of real money by just getting rid of the friction, getting rid of the data, and making sure it's there, not even in her budget. And what that also allowed is the project to actually be implemented 2 months sooner. I will say that Andersen's leadership team is on board, and the fact that often infrequent communication is something that we as technologists tend to not do very well sometimes. I can tell you it's a total winner. If they're in and they're involved and they can see the lights blink and it's like, holy shit, that actually works, they're in. They're all in. There is not one leader that won't ride a success and continue to fund a success because they want one too, right? And they can put their name on that shingle, and if this is a success, then the next project will be a success. And they'll continue to make sure that they put their company in a position of leadership. So now, if you got any questions, yes?
Most of your presentation sounds like the context is for enterprise users, for employees of Andersen.
These are well.
They're business partners, our dealers, our trade folks, people that we're actually partnering with to sell Andersen product.
So
it's your infrastructure.
So your app store is for your channel, then?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
You're provisioning to non-owned devices?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you say App Store, are you said you're using Microsoft
No, we built one fit for purpose. So we built an app store. There isn't one out there, right? And it's on on their SaaS. So, yes, sir.
I'm curious, one thing you did mention in terms of benefits that often shows up is about risk reduction. In terms of the board and senior leadership, they're pretty interested in what their risk profile is.
Yeah. So it wasn't a factor because everything was so broken up front of that. But the second part is because now that you've got everybody coming through one place, they're going to put in a policy that says if they haven't logged in within 30 days or 7 days or whatever, they're just going to turn the access off. And that's now automatic. And now that risk is gone. Yeah. So it just kind of comes with the, yes, sir.
What did you find unique about the millwork industry?
Millwork.
The millwork industry. Number one, they didn't give me a discount when I needed a door.
Oh,
It's
boy.
like, no love, right? No love. We viewed it, at least as the journey partner here, as a manufacturing thing, right? So when we looked at it from an architectural perspective, we looked at, all right, how do I do channel and sales operations and that kind of thing? Ironically, the CISO at Andersen has come back and said, okay, I have all of these manufacturing operation challenges in the same problem set, but a different genre, different target set. He's like, if I already have the investment here from a baseline perspective, the only thing I have to change out is the app store set to be able to take care of my suppliers and how I buy my raw materials, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yep, yep, yes, sir.
Did you say you were automatically removing access within 7 or 30 days?
We're in.
It's going to be longer than that, but yes, we're going to be disabling user accounts.
How did you get them to buy into that? Because I'm using 180 days, and I say I'm going to get rid of your access, but you don't get in the fold in 180 days. People lose their mind.
Well, and just keep in mind, these are channel folks or customers, but I will say this, we were doing it before as well, but there were pain points. Sorry, we need to wrap up. There were pain points with having to do that, with people saying, hey, wait a minute, I still need my access. But then we would just find ways. It's going to be easy enough to re-enable them with this process if needed.
Yeah, that's a status change. Realistically, it's like you haven't logged in for 6 months. You're clearly not buying any windows. You're not measuring anything to put in a door or a window. And so, from a risk reduction perspective, we're going to turn it off. If you want to come back in, we're going to let them do self-service password reset and re-enable it. But they're going to have to come back to the door. Yes, sir.
VIP users that they don't want to be bothered in any way. Basically, they don't want to make any change at all.
Well, we don't have those. Well, I will
That's
say,
more of a workforce thing.
Yeah, but I will say for those customers that might be a little more exception-based, I will help handhold them a little bit more with any struggles they're having, because sometimes you just have people that are a little more special with needs. So
That's wonderful. You don't have those.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for your time.
thank you.